There is a moment that happens before you think, before logic arrives, before your mind begins its familiar process of comparing, analyzing, and justifying. In that fraction of a second, something deeper in you already knows. It has already chosen. That moment is what this test is designed to capture. In front of you right now are 4 buttons. They are simple. They are ordinary in shape. But each one carries a color, and color is never truly ordinary. Color bypasses words. It bypasses reasoning. It speaks directly to the part of you that existed long before language was invented, long before you learned how to explain yourself to the world. Do not think about which button is the most popular. Do not ask yourself what each color means. Do not try to guess the correct answer, because there is no correct answer. There is only your answer, and your answer is already forming beneath the surface of your awareness, even as you read these words. The 4 buttons before you are red, yellow, green, and black. Each one holds a different psychological energy. Each one reflects a different relationship with the self, with emotion, with power, and with the hidden forces that silently shape your choices every single day. Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychiatrist who founded analytical psychology, believed that human beings are not driven primarily by logic. We are driven by the unconscious, by instincts, archetypes, and emotional patterns that were formed long before we had words for them. Jung believed that even the most trivial choices, a color, a shape, an image, a symbol, can reveal the deeper currents moving beneath conscious thought. This test works on that same principle. The button you feel drawn to is not random. It is a reflection of a dominant inner state, one that may be shaping your relationships, your decisions, your fears, and your desires right now in this period of your life. It is not about who you have always been. It is about who you are becoming, and which inner force is currently asking to be seen. Before we continue, take a breath. Look at the 4 colors one more time. Red, yellow, green, black. Do not force the choice. Do not overthink it. Simply notice which one quietly calls to you. That quiet pull is not a coincidence. It is your unconscious speaking before your conscious mind has a chance to interrupt. Once your choice is made, hold it, because what follows may feel uncomfortably accurate. And if this kind of introspective content speaks to you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It allows us to keep creating content that goes deeper than surface-level psychology, content designed not just to entertain you, but to help you truly understand yourself. Now let us begin. Button 1, red, the fire that never fully goes out. If the red button is the one your eyes and instincts move toward first, then something powerful is alive in you right now. Not just energy, not just passion. Something older than both of those words. Something that could be called a will to exist fully, without apology, without dimming, without asking permission. Red is the color of blood and fire. It is the first color the human eye learns to register. It is a color of urgency, of aliveness, of everything that refuses to be ignored. And people who are drawn to red, whether they realize it or not, carry that same quality within them. You feel things intensely, not in a way that is performed or displayed, but in the way that costs something. When you love with your whole body. When you are angry, the anger does not stay quiet for long. When you believe in something, you do not simply believe it with your mind. You believe it with your entire being. This is not a personality trait. It is a psychological orientation. You are someone who lives close to the edge of experience. From a Jungian perspective, the color red is deeply connected to what Jung called a libido, not in the narrow sense, but in the broader meaning of psychic energy, the force that drives us forward, the fire that pushes the self toward growth, toward confrontation, toward everything that is real and immediate. Those drawn to red are often carrying this force in high concentration right now. But here is where it becomes more nuanced, because the red button is not simply about power or passion. It is also about pressure. You may be carrying more than you are showing. There is a particular kind of person who is drawn to red during a time of inner tension. Someone who feels the pressure of unexpressed emotion, of held-back truth, of a version of themselves that has been waiting too long to emerge. The red button says something is burning in you right now, and the question is whether that fire is being channeled or suppressed. People who choose red often have a history of being told they are too much. too intense, too emotional, too direct, too loud, and over time, some of them learn to turn the volume down, to contain the fire, to present a softer, more manageable version of themselves to the world. But the fire does not disappear. It simply moves underground, and underground fire eventually becomes pressure. If this resonates with you, consider this. The energy you feel inside is not a problem to be solved. It is a signal. Your psyche is not malfunctioning. It is asking for expression, for direction, for a channel wide enough to hold everything you actually are. There's a shadow side to this archetype that deserves honesty. The same intensity that makes you magnetic can make you destructive when it is misdirected. Impatience, reactivity, the tendency to act before reflecting. These are the shadows of the red energy. When the fire burns without awareness, it consumes not only obstacles, but also the things and people you actually value. Your growth, if you chose this button, does not come from cooling the fire. It comes from learning to hold it consciously, to feel the intensity fully without being controlled by it. There's also a profound courage in this choice. Red is the color of those who step forward when others step back. Leaders do not always choose red, but people who carry the red energy are often the ones who say the difficult truth in a room that everyone else was thinking, but no one was willing to speak. You are not afraid of confrontation the way others are. You do not avoid the uncomfortable conversation. You do not wait for permission to take up space. The red button chose you, or perhaps you chose it, because something in you is ready to stop waiting, ready to stop containing, ready to act from the full depth of who you are rather than the edited version you have been presenting to the world. Ask yourself honestly, where in your life are you holding back your fire to keep the peace? Where are you making yourself smaller to avoid the discomfort of being fully seen? And at what cost? Your psyche is not asking you to burn everything down. It is asking you to stop pretending the fire is not there. Button 2, yellow. The light that searches for more light. If the yellow button is where your attention quietly landed, you carry within you one of the most searching, most restless, and most luminous inner states of all four. Yellow is the color of sunlight, of early morning, of the moment before something begins. It does not carry the weight of what came before. It faces forward. It opens. It reaches. And the people drawn to yellow are almost always in the middle of a search. Not a search for something external, a career, a relationship, a destination, but a search for something internal, for clarity, for meaning, for a version of their life that feels genuinely theirs and not simply the product of other people's expectations. You are someone who thinks, not occasionally, not only when required, but constantly. Your mind does not switch off easily. You process experiences, conversations, and emotions long after they have passed. You're often the person in the room who is quietly observing, synthesizing, connecting ideas that others have not yet noticed are related. This is not overthinking. This is your natural mode of being. It is how your psyche makes sense of the world. Carl Jung spoke extensively about what he called the thinking function, one of the four psychological functions he identified in human consciousness. Those who are drawn to yellow often have a highly developed relationship with this function. You do not accept the surface explanation. You go deeper. You question. You probe. You are not satisfied with answers that were given to you by someone else. You want to arrive at your own truth through your own process. But here's a tension that lives inside the yellow archetype. You search for light, but you are also afraid of what the light might reveal. There's a particular kind of anxiety that belongs to highly aware, highly reflective people. The awareness of how much remains unknown, how much could go wrong, how many possibilities exist, and how difficult it is to choose among them wisely. You may sometimes find yourself paralyzed not by lack of intelligence, but by too much of it. You can see multiple outcomes simultaneously. You can hold multiple perspectives at once. And what should be a gift can become a burden when it makes every decision feel impossibly complex. The yellow button also carries the energy of optimism, but not the naive kind. You have seen enough of life to understand that things can go wrong. Your optimism, if you carry it, is a conscious choice. It is something you return to deliberately, especially in the moments when the evidence seems to point elsewhere. This kind of earned optimism is among the most psychologically sophisticated orientations a person can have. People who choose yellow often have a complicated relationship with rest. You may find it difficult to stop moving, thinking, creating, or processing. There is an underlying fear that if you stop, something important will be missed or something unfinished will remain undone. But your psyche, in drawing you toward yellow, may be pointing toward something different. Not more light from the outside, but more stillness on inside. Not more searching, but a moment of arriving. Your shadow, if you carry yellow energy, is a tendency to intellectualize emotions rather than feel them, to turn what is raw and unresolved into a concept that can be managed from a safe distance. This is not dishonesty. It is protection. But protection, over time, becomes distance. And distance is a thing yellow energy ultimately cannot afford, because connection is where your light actually makes its greatest impact. You are not here to shine alone. You are here to illuminate something for someone else, to help them see what they could not see without you. But that requires presence, not just brilliance. It requires vulnerability, not just understanding. Ask yourself, what am I still searching for that I may already have? What truth am I circling around but not quite landing on? Where has my intelligence been protecting me from something I actually need to feel? The yellow button does not just represent the search. It represents the moment just before the answer arrives. And that moment is always closer than it appears. Button 3, green, the one who needs to breathe again. If the green button spoke to you first, before logic could redirect your attention, then something in you is reaching for restoration, for balance, for the deep, quiet exhale that comes only when you have finally put down what you've been carrying for too long. Green is the color of the natural world, of forests and leaves and growing things, of what endures, what heals, and what returns season after season regardless of the winter that came before. It is not a color that demands attention. It does not announce itself. And yet it is the color that the human nervous system responds to more deeply than almost any other. Being around green lowers the heart rate. It quiets the mind. It restores. And you, right now, may be someone who desperately needs that restoration. People drawn to the green button often carry more than they show. You are likely someone who other people lean on. The steady one, the calm one, the one who is called when things fall apart, who shows up when others cannot, who holds the emotional weight of the people around them with a quiet grace that makes it look effortless. But it is not effortless. It is exhausting. And somewhere beneath the composure, there is a person who is running on empty. Carl Jung spoke of what he called the persona, the mask we wear in the world, the version of ourselves we have shaped to meet the expectations and needs of those around us. For those who choose green, the persona is often one of reliability, emotional steadiness, and selflessness. But the cost of maintaining that persona, day after day, year after year, is enormous. And the soul eventually signals that cost through a longing for rest, for nature, for simplicity, for peace. The green archetype is closely related to what Jung might have associated with the self-healing capacity of the psyche, the part of us that knows instinctively when the body and mind have been overextended, when the reserves are low, when an internal ecosystem needs quiet and nourishment rather than more output. But there is something deeper here too. The people who choose green are not simply tired. They're also often searchers for authenticity. You may have spent a significant portion of your life being what others needed you to be, fulfilling roles, meeting expectations, shaping your behavior to fit the emotional landscape of the people around you. And while that is an act of love, it can slowly create a quiet distance between you and your own truth. Green says, come back to yourself. Come back to what is real, what is yours, what does not require performance or management. Come back to the part of you that simply exists, that does not need to justify its presence, that is not responsible for holding anyone else together. Your shadow, if you carry green energy, is a tendency to avoid conflict at the expense of your own needs. You are skilled at sensing what others want and shaping yourself to provide it. But this skill, when overused, becomes a form of self-erasure. You become so attuned to the needs of the room that you lose the signal of your own needs entirely. And by the time you notice you are depleted, the depletion has become structural. The green button is not simply a choice of color. It is the psyche's quiet way of raising its hand and saying, enough, I need something for myself now. not for anyone else. For me, if this resonated, ask yourself honestly, when did you last do something purely for your own restoration? When did you last say no without guilt and yes without obligation? When did you last give yourself permission to be incomplete, to be uncertain, to be a work in progress without needing to manage how that looks to anyone else? Green does not mean weakness. It never did. Green means the wisdom to know that you cannot give from an empty place. That renewal is not a luxury. It is a prerequisite. The forest does not apologize for needing winter, and you do not need to apologize for needing rest. Your psyche chose green because it is pointing you toward life, toward what is real and living and already within you, waiting patiently for you to come home. Button 4, black, the depth that most people are afraid to enter. If the black button is the one that your attention moved toward without hesitation, or perhaps with kind of reluctant recognition, then you are someone who has always lived closer to the depths than to the surface. Black is not the absence of color. It is the presence of all colors absorbed, held, contained. It does not reflect outward. It draws inward. It is a color of mystery, of depth, of the unseen, and of everything that cannot be adequately explained in the daylight. And the people who are drawn to black are almost always people who understand, at some deep and often unspoken level, that reality is not only what is visible, that the most important things, the most defining things, very often happen beneath the surface. Carl Jung devoted much of his life's work to what he called the shadow, the parts of the psyche that we reject, conceal, or fail to integrate, the aspects of ourselves that were too dangerous, too inconvenient, too misunderstood to be welcomed into the conscious personality. The shadow is not evil, but it is powerful, and it is real. And those who choose the black button are often people who have a complicated but intimate relationship with their own shadow. You may have grown up feeling different, not in a way that is celebrated or romanticized, but in the quieter, lonelier way, as though you perceived things others did not, felt things others could not explain, and carried a weight that was never quite named. You may have been misunderstood, not because you were difficult, but because you were deep, and depth, in a world that often rewards surface, can be profoundly isolating. The black archetype in Jungian psychology is associated with transformation, with a descent before the ascent. Every mythological journey, every hero story, every psychological process of genuine growth involves a period of darkness, a time of not knowing, a passage through something that feels like dissolution before it becomes reintegration. If you chose the black button, you are likely either in that passage right now, or you have been through one recently. Something is changing in you. Perhaps it has been changing slowly, beneath your awareness, for longer than you realize. The identity that once felt solid is becoming uncertain. The story you told yourself about who you are may no longer feel entirely true. And rather than resisting this process, some part of you recognize a black button as familiar, as honest. There is enormous strength in this archetype, but it is not the kind of strength that announces itself. It is the strength of endurance, of sitting with what is unresolved without needing to rush toward resolution, of being willing to enter the uncomfortable question and remain there long enough for a genuine answer to form. Most people run from that kind of discomfort. You do not run as easily. Your shadow, paradoxically, is the risk of becoming too comfortable in the darkness. The descent is necessary, but it is not the destination. There are people who choose a black button because they have learned, somewhere along the way, that depth is safe and light is dangerous. That being seen is too risky. That remaining in the interior is better than the vulnerability of emerging. And for those people, the work is not to go deeper. The work is to bring what has been discovered in the depth back to the surface and allow it to live in the world. You are not meant to remain underground. You are meant to bring something back. There may also be grief in your choice. The color black is universally associated with loss, with mourning, with the things that are no longer here. And if you're carrying loss right now, whether recent or long unacknowledged, your psyche may have pointed you toward black simply as an act of recognition, an acknowledgement that something has ended, something has been lost, and that loss is real, and it deserves to be honored. Ask yourself, what am I in the process of releasing right now? What old version of myself am I grieving? What is waiting to emerge on the other side of this passage? If I have the courage to trust the process rather than fight it. The black button does not mean you are dark. It means you are deep. It means you are willing to enter the places that others avoid. And it means that what you carry back from those places has the power to illuminate something for yourself and for those around you. Depth is not a flaw. It is a gift. And the black button is simply your psyche's quiet acknowledgement of that fact. You have made your choice. And that choice, as small as it may have seemed, was never really about a button or a color. It was about you, about the part of you that is most active right now, the inner force that is quietly shaping your decisions, your emotions, and the way you move through this particular season of your life. Carl Jung believed that every symbol we are drawn to is a message from the unconscious, not a random preference, but a signal, a reflection of something alive and moving beneath our awareness that is asking, gently or urgently, to be seen and understood. The red button speaks of fire and aliveness and the pressure of unexpressed truth. The yellow button speaks of searching and luminosity and the anxiety of a mind that has not yet been given permission to rest. The green button speaks of exhaustion and restoration and the quiet courage it takes to return to yourself after spending so long tending to everyone else. The black button speaks of depth and transformation and the wisdom that can only come from those who are willing to sit in the dark long enough to understand what it is actually saying. None of these is better or worse. None of them is a verdict. They are simply different expressions of a human experience, different ways the soul learns to navigate a world that is always more complex, more layered, and more meaningful than it first appears. What matters most is not which button you chose. What matters is what you do with the awareness it has offered you. If the red button revealed something about fire that you have been suppressing, the question is, what would change if you allowed expression? If the yellow button revealed something about a search that has not yet found its destination, the question is, are you willing to slow down long enough to let the answer arrive? If the green button revealed something about depletion that you've been quietly managing, the question is, what is one thing you need to give back to yourself today? And if the black button revealed something about depth and transformation that is already underway, the question is, can you trust the process even when you cannot yet see where it is leading? Psychological growth does not happen through dramatic revelation. It happens through small, honest moments of recognition, through the willingness to pause and ask, what is actually true for me right now? Not what should be true, not what I wish were true. What is actually honestly true? Your button was one of those moments. And if it resonated with you, if something in this video reflected a part of your inner world that you rarely see named so directly, I want to hear about it. Share in the comments which button you chose and which part of the description felt most true. Your reflection might be exactly what someone else watching this video needed to read today. If this kind of content speaks to you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need to see their own reflection more clearly. Because the goal of this channel has never been to tell you who you are. It has always been to help you hear what you already know. Until next time, stay curious, stay honest, and trust that the part of you that chose before you could think about it already knows more than you realize.